If you have spent years trying to be more consistent, more disciplined, more together, and it still isn't working, I want you to hear this. The problem was never you. It was always the system. I am a solo parent, a sand mom carer to an autistic child, and a life coach. And the most important thing that I learned in the 6 years of being on my own self help and personal development and self coaching journey and doing this work with others is something that nobody told me when I needed it most. The system was never built for us. This video is for every woman living life on hard mode who has spent years wondering what is wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with you. Today, we are covering why the advice keeps failing you, what the process looks like when you start to see yourself clearly, and how to create a system that bends around your actual life instead of demanding you bend around it. What looks to you like a discipline problem is actually a design problem, and I show you why. So, the advice was built for a different life and it was not built for yours. And what this means is that their life was so different who gave you advice. Their life might contain full sleep, support, childcare, and free time, whereas your life with no sleep, no backup, solo parenting, no margin, and whatever other circumstances you have been dealing with that were not like their circumstances that restricted your time, restricted what you were capable of, restricted your energy, restricted your freedom, it's very different, and there is a design gap between the two things. So you might have thought it was a discipline problem, which we often were told and told over and over again, but in reality, our lives just looked so differently. Their life was designed and streamlined to, let's say, peak consistency and peak progress, and yours probably wasn't. Yours, if you fall into that category, the second one, then yours wasn't. And that's a design gap between the two things. You cannot out-discipline a system that physically does not match your reality. It's not going to work. Let's say you have 1 hour, but then you have three different things to fit into that 1 hour. You would need to do the cooking, you would need to do some cleaning, and you would need to go and pick up your child. That's three different things in 1 hour. And for that, you physically would need to be in three different places, and that is just not possible. So the design of it was just not set correctly. You can want to show up for all of them, you can be ready to do all of them, but the system doesn't match your reality. It's not possible to do three things at the same time in three different locations. To share a story with you, I was and probably if you are a parent, then you was also advised to not give screens to your kids, like let's do screen free time and let's try to keep them off screen as much as possible. And so I was following that advice. And I was trying to teach my kid for 2 years the ABCs, numbers, letters, colors, all those things. And then watching YouTube, he was learning them from nursery songs and he could recite them word by word. And then he started to learn them in different languages, for example, the colors and the ABCs, right? I was teaching him for 2 years and every day was just playing with him and just, reciting the numbers wherever there was an opportunity. And he learned it from YouTube. So obviously the advice just didn't fit our life. And so it wasn't a bad advice. It was just not built for our life. Like I said, it was different. And so the takeaway from this is that the system was set up to make you fail, because if the system is set up for you to be at three different locations at the same time, then that is setting yourself up, that is setting you up for failure. And that is not your personality flaw. That's something wrong with you. It's a design flaw. It is just not fit for you. And so what matters here is your story. If you tell yourself, I am not consistent, it is an opinion and it is not a fact. How? You get to choose what you believe about yourself. And how is that an opinion and not a fact? Well, basically, if you say you're not consistent, then what I would like to ask from you is, have you ever have you been showing up for your family members? Have you been feeding your kids? Have you been taking your kids to school? Have you been clothing your kids? Have you been putting clothes on them every day or nearly every day? Like consistently, that's the key. Have you been doing that? Yes, then there is at least one thing that you are consistent about. And if there is at least one thing you are consistent about, then it is not 100% true that you are not consistent. It's not 100% true because we just disproved it. And so, therefore, if it's not 100% true, if it's not a fact, then it's an opinion, right? So, it is a lot more helpful if you create some distance between the thing that's holding you back, which is now I am not consistent. You made it part of your identity, whereas you could create distance and make it not part of your identity by naming what you are not doing every day or what you are not doing a set amount of time that you would like to do. Like let's say I'm not creating content daily. I am not cleaning my house daily. I am not tidying up every room every time when I see that it's messy or every time when I see that items are misplaced. If you do this, you create the distance, and so it's not going to feel so harsh on your own self anymore. It's going to help you breathe a little. It's going to give you space that way. And when the self blame spiral starts, this is what you can do. You can ask this question: is this 100% true? And it almost never is. It's almost always an opinion, what we hurt ourselves with. And usually we took this from what's been reflected back to us. So, this, what we are hurting ourselves with, is usually almost never true. It's almost never a fact. It's usually an opinion. Even if it's a fact, it's an opinion of the fact that is going to hurt. The thoughts that I have about it that will give me the negative feelings. So if it's not 100% true, then it's an opinion, and you get to choose your opinions. You can decide to let them go. And so in this case, you swap the identity label for the plain fact. So I'm not creating content every day, creates that distance that you need, and it does not define you. And you cannot bully yourself into consistency. You cannot bully yourself into something that you want to reach for like the rest of your life, let's say, right? So you might gonna have certain amount of time when you are successful about it, but you're not going to enjoy it. And then is it worth it if you don't enjoy it? And I'm not saying that we need to be hedonists and just let everything go and let ourselves just enjoy everything all the times, because that's not what this is about. This is about that you get to decide how you want to live your life, and you get to decide what you want to believe about things, and you get to decide if you want to get into, let's say, consistency or whatever you are telling yourself that you are not. If you want that, the opposite of that, you get to decide if you are going to try to bully yourself into it and self-harm, quote unquote, with words and with being really harsh on yourself, if hating yourself into it, if you're gonna be doing it that way or trying it that way, or if you're gonna choose a much more proactive and a much more cooperative way of trying a different approach. And kindness should be the strategy here and not the reward, because that is what's going to help you just really skyrocket in these things and just make it so much easier. So, and it's going to help you in the hard days when everything is falling apart and just nothing can go the way you wanted it to go. Like those days when, let's say, your kid falls sick or something else happens or there's school holiday coming up for like a week or something, which is actually coming up now. So those occasions, like this counts at those occasions when you cannot even go like you do on your own best day. So replace the thought with something that supports you and remind yourself of it every single time when the old one comes back. And how that looks like is every time, let's say you walk around your house and you look at something, an item that is not in its place, and you think, oh, I I just can't keep a house tidy. I'm just so untidy. I'm just so disorganized. Remind yourself, pause and remind yourself, okay, this is not what I want to think anymore. What I want to think from now on is that this item is not in its place right now. So let me pick it up and put it to its place. Or let me pick it up later and put it to its place. Or let me talk to someone else in the house to put it to its place. Without making it part of your identity, I just cannot keep a house tidy. I'm just so untidy. I am an untidy person. Instead of doing that, just tell yourself what actually is happening and then move on. And that's going to help because that's going to create that distance that you need. So the old thoughts are going to keep coming back, but you just need to remind yourself every time that you want to think the new thing now, and then it's going to change over time. And how does a system that works look like? So a system that works will hold you on your best and your worst day. Sometimes in my experience, like I said, I have a lot of life situations that making things a lot harder, and you might be in the same situation like I am. Sometimes everything falls apart. And there are usually some parts of my system, sometimes it's just one thing that still holds. And that one thing, let's say, is that I am not beating myself up today about the fact that everything else fell apart and I couldn't be productive at all. So if that's the one thing that's part of my system, that I'm going to not beat myself up and I'm going to be kind to myself, then that's a system that is working for me. And so in that case, some part of it always holds. And some days maybe that's not even gonna work. But even that is fine if you can keep going back to your system that is meant for you, that is set for your life, and that actually supports you and it works. Us women who face so much, who live life on hard mode for whatever circumstances that we have, that we are going through this, we beat ourselves up so much. And our best day and worst day will definitely look completely different. And sometimes everything falls apart, like I already said. And so a system that can support us, even if it's not today, but the next week when I come back to it, that's a good system for us. And that's what I would like you to go towards, because that's what's going to help you overall feel better about your life. And that's a good thing. So I have been journaling for the last 6 years, and that still doesn't mean that I'm journaling every day. There were months, and there are months, when I don't journal at all. But I still consider myself a journaler because that's what I want to make part of my identity. And who is to decide if I'm only a journaler if I journal every day, or if I get to be a journaler even if I leave a lot of gaps in between, right? Who decides what consistency looks like in this case, for example? Because I can say I am consistent, and then someone else might gonna say that's not consistency for them, but that's fine. But I get to decide, and you get to decide for yourself. And this is what is your responsibility and what is going to help you feel better about your life. So a system that works is one that you do not dread. So one you can pick back up without guilt once you are ready. And then when the kid is sick and when survival mode kicks in, that doesn't mean you are falling off the wagon. That is just life. And especially for us, it's just life happening. And you can just come back when you can. And it is so much harder to come back when you can if you build up a resentment for the time and you were not able to go back to things that you genuinely enjoyed and that was genuinely helpful for you. Nobody gets to decide what makes you a journaler or a tapper, someone who's tapping, someone who is coaches themselves, except you. You get to decide. So the most important thing a system can do is wait for you. No judgment, no starting over, just picking it back up and keep moving on. And this is going to help you be quote unquote a lot more consistent. So because you skip over all the endless cycle and the circling back to just beating yourself up for not doing it for a certain amount of time, let's say, you just move on and you keep going from where you left off. And it's going to, over time, make you actually a lot more consistent than you used to be. Because you skipped over the part where you are just feeling so miserable about the thing that you missed one day or 1 week or 1 month. And in this, I would recommend that you choose AI as your partner. I think AI can be super, super helpful for us. AI doesn't add to your load, it helps lighten it if you use it the right way. And it creates the structure your exhausted brain cannot hold right now, but that you actually need. So let's say I have 5 minutes, and in that 5 minutes, I can decide to write a shopping list, or I can decide to do a brain dump and empty my mind, write down all the thoughts on my mind that is making me feel overwhelmed. I'm going to choose the second one, and I'm going to leave the shopping list to AI because it is possible now, and that is like the smallest tip of the iceberg, that you can get AI to organize your shopping list, to write a list for you. And you might look at it in a way where it's like, okay, I am having, like, I have a piece of paper and a pen in my hand, and I am writing, so I am doing the same thing, sort of, if I'm writing a shopping list, or if I'm writing my thoughts down, it's just writing. I am doing the same action, but it has a very different outcome. And one is going to help you a lot more than the other. And I'm not saying that from now on you should do all your shopping lists by AI. I mean, if that's what you like, you can. But what I'm trying to really point out here is that AI can really help us with the mental load, us who are in the certain situations that we are, women living life on hard mode, right? AI can, one of the hardest part of this life is the mental load, is the mind that never shuts off, that is always just keep repeating what you need to do, what you missed, what you shouldn't forget, what still needs doing, what still needs organizing. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. And AI can really help take off some of the mental load at least. And that will help you not feel overwhelmed all the time and calm your mind and use your time to do something about calming your mind, for example, right? Like tapping. That is so helpful, or some somatic exercise. There are so many things to choose from. But yeah, AI creates the structure your brain cannot hold right now on its own. And it's not doing it instead of you, it's doing it alongside you if you're doing it the right way. So what you can do, for example, and I really love doing this lately, you can actually dictate your thoughts out loud. So let's say you want to empty your mind, you want to get rid of all your thoughts in your mind. You can decide to write them down with your hand on a piece of paper, which is very, very helpful. You can also decide to type them on your phone or on your laptop, whatever, or you can decide to just dictate, to just open an app and just voice record and dictate it and just say it out loud to something where you can listen back from. If you then want to digest it with AI, because AI can help you understand your own thoughts more as well and organize it in a way where it's a lot easier for your mind to understand what's going on. So that can be a 5-minute task that becomes 5 minutes of something else instead, right? You didn't spend, let's say, if you want to empty your mind and download all your thoughts, just get all your thoughts out of your mind. If you are handwriting it, that's gonna be a lot slower than typing it, and that's gonna be a lot slower than speaking it out. So that's why it's super helpful. And one tool instead of three. AI can replace the planner, tracker, and journal. It can be a lot more streamlined. It can help you with so many things. Like, it is possible to build these tools, and I have built these tools for us to use and to help ourselves. So I would really love to help you with these. And it is going to be less to carry and not more in this way. So instead of thinking, okay, now there are 300 tools to use, there are not 300 tools to use, one, two, it will lighten the load, because a lot of the things you are still using or doing or would be helpful, but the old way was PDFs and printables and Excel sheets and things like that, whereas AI can now create a lot more interactive tools that are a lot easier to use. And I created one as a freebie for this video, and so you can find it in the description, and I highly recommend that you go through it. It's a system regulation guide, and it's going to help you set up a system for yourself and make sure that it works for you. It's super useful. So I highly recommend that you check it out in the description. And because time is the one thing that we cannot buy, right? We cannot buy it back. And I don't want to be this, oh my God, just be very precious about your time. Do whatever you want with your time. I mean, it's up to you, obviously. It's your life. But that's the whole point. It is your life, it is our life, it is my life, it is our own life, and nobody is gonna live it for us. So we need to make it work. We need to face the consequences of our decisions in this life. And so that's why, if I need to choose advice from someone who is not living nearly the life that I'm living, I don't want that advice, because it's not going to work for me. I want advice in that case from someone who can at least have an understanding of my circumstances and what I'm facing on a daily basis, and why I am, when I say living life on hard mode, why that is. What are the challenges? What are the things that I'm facing? And so in that case, I think it's a lot more helpful for me to learn from someone who's in a similar situation, and also to just help me make the best decisions for me, or just tell me what worked for them. Because what worked for them is much more likely to work for me, or like a slightly altered version of it, than what worked for someone who is so far away from the life that I'm living. So in this case, AI can give some of your time back, because it can fasten the processes that you want to do to make your life easier and more enjoyable, and just living life on less hard mode. Um, and in that case, AI doesn't ask you to be a different person. It meets you exactly where you are and helps you think through what is already there. So this is why I recommend using these tools, and they are so super helpful. And like I said, you can check one in the description. If you know someone who needs to hear that they are not the problem, then please send this video to them, because they most likely really need it. If this has landed for you, then please follow me. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is one thing that you have been blaming yourself for that might actually have been just the wrong system for you? I read every single one of the comments, so I will see you there.